Hey everyone, and welcome back to Berd Predicts NFL Week 6. Yes, I did take a break last week because I wasn't able to record or edit a video during the weekend, which is, I record them during Wednesday, but I usually edit them on Saturday or Sunday. But just to let you guys know, I am not cheating on my predictions. I do record the audio on either Wednesday or like right before the Thursday night game happens, so I am not cheating. Alright, so anyway, last week I did take a break, and last week was also my worst week so far. I went 8-6, which brings my total record up to 50-28, which is still a good record, all things considered. But it was my worst week so far. And I think that's part, in fact, to me not actually doing these videos. So I am back, and I am going to be doing the predictions for NFL Week 6. Alright, so our first game of the season is going to be the Denver Broncos versus the Kansas City Chiefs. This one should be pretty much a no-brainer. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs. They just look better in all facets of the ball, and they should very easily defeat the Broncos. Next up, we have a matchup between the Ravens and the Titans. This is the third straight London game in 3 weeks. The Ravens coming off of a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was pretty surprising, but the offense really just couldn't seem to get anything going after the second half, or after the first half, and yeah, they did end up losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Titans, meanwhile, had a pretty close loss to the Indianapolis Colts. Both teams coming off of a Week 5 loss. But I do think that the Ravens are going to defeat the Titans. They do look like a better team, and I do think that last week was just a hiccup to what should be a playoff season. Alright, next game is the Washington Commanders versus the Atlanta Falcons. The Commanders coming off of a surprising loss to the Chicago Bears, 40-20. That was very surprising. DJ Moore had a great game, and the Washington defense looked very suspicious, very suspect, especially to how they've been performing for the rest of the year. Sorry, my voice is pretty raspy still. Anyway, the Falcons coming off of a win against the Houston Texans off of a game-winning field goal. The Falcons don't look too bad. I mean, they kind of look like a middle-of-the-road team, but I do see them making the playoffs this year. Now, who do I think is going to win this? I am going to go with Atlanta winning against Washington. I think my opinion on Washington has kind of changed. They started off looking like a mid team and started looking like a pretty good team, and now they're not looking great. So I am going to take the Falcons. Next up is the Vikings versus the Bears. The Vikings coming off of their fourth loss of the season against the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a close game, and there was a very questionable call by the refs that did help the Chiefs win. But again, they do not look like a great team, and Justin Jefferson is going to be out for the foreseeable future. And the Chicago Bears coming off of a surprising victory against the Commanders. Again, DJ Moore had a monstrous game. Justin Fields not looking too bad against that Washington defense, but I'm not feeling good about the Bears. Who knows, maybe they could prove me wrong and start picking up their season, but for now, I am going to go with the Minnesota Vikings winning this one. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals got their second win of the season against the Arizona Cardinals, and it's the first game where I think they actually looked like a legitimate team. I think that win against the Rams was very, very sloppy, but I think their game last week was very convincing for me. Ja'Marr Chase had a great game, absolutely electrifying game, and Joe Burrow. I wouldn't say he looked back to his last year's form, but he definitely looked better. The Seahawks, meanwhile, came off of a bye week. Yeah, they had a bye week last week, so they did get some time to sort of recharge, and they are 3-1. They're the sixth best team in the NFC, I believe, or maybe the fifth. I'm not sure, but they don't look too bad. Granted, they have been playing some pretty mediocre teams, but they did beat the Lions. Anyway, I am going to go with Cincinnati winning this one. I think they're only just going to get better, and I do see them defeating the Seattle Seahawks. Next up is going to be a completely awful game. The Niners versus the Browns. Jesus Christ. Yeah, the Niners are actually going to destroy the Browns. The Browns are going to be lucky if they put up 10 points. I mean, they absolutely destroyed the Cowboys, and they look like a really scary team. They look like a really scary team, and the Browns are going to get pummeled on national TV. Next up, the New Orleans Saints versus the Houston Texans. Now, the Saints have come off of a blowout victory against the New England Patriots. Their defense looked pretty solid that game. Cam Jordan sort of showed us he is still capable of being an elite edge rusher, or not edge rusher, but defensive tackle. And that Saints defense is looking pretty stout. Meanwhile, the Texans coming off of a loss against the Falcons. C.J. Stroud still looking like Offensive Rookie of the Year so far, and he did have another good game. Who do I think is going to win this one? It is a tough choice, but I mean, the Saints defense did look great. Their offense was alright, all things considered. So I will go with the Saints winning. The Texans are a really unpredictable team. Whenever I predict them to win, they lose, and whenever I predict them to lose, they win. So who knows, they might pull it off against the Saints. It's a pretty close call here. Next up, a battle for AFC South supremacy. It is the Indianapolis Colts versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I would put this at my game of the week, and it probably should be my game of the week, but Anthony Richardson is not going to be playing, so I do think the Jaguars do have the advantage, and I think they're going to win it at home. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts do pull off the victory. Next up, another great game. The Carolina Panthers versus the Miami Dolphins. Good God, these matchups are terrible. The Panthers are the only winless team left in the NFL. Bryce Young has not been looking great. He has not been looking great, and the Dolphins have been looking, well, they've been looking elite so far. Looking like at least a top 3 team in the AFC next to the Chiefs and the Bills. So, yeah, definitely a great team, and they are most likely going to defeat the Panthers. Next up, we have our, I was going to say upset of the week, but, I mean, would it really be an upset? Because these teams are both on the same level, so I'm not going to put it as my upset of the week. I am taking the Raiders defeating the Patriots. You know, it would maybe have been an upset at the beginning of the season, but the Patriots have looked god-awful. Their offense has been looking like the worst in the league, and I don't think taking the Raiders over the Patriots is an upset at all. Next up is going to be my game of the week. The Lions versus the Buccaneers. Now, this might not sound like your game of the week, but it definitely is to me. And that's because both teams have been looking pretty underrated so far. I mean, everybody's been hyping up the Lions, I guess, but not so much the Buccaneers. And I do think this is a matchup between two good teams in the NFL. That being said, I am taking the Detroit Lions winning. They have just been looking great. They came off of a victory against who was it? They came off a victory against the Panthers, which granted are one of the worst teams in the NFL, but still, I think the Lions are going to pull it off against the Bucs, even though they are going to wear their creamsicle uniforms for the first time in I don't even know how many years. I'm still taking the Lions here. Next up, the Cardinals against the Rams. I don't know. Both teams have been looking very mediocre, I guess you could say. I mean, both teams came off of a loss to some good teams, the Bengals and the Eagles, respectively. But between these two teams, I think there is a clear-cut winner here, and that is the Los Angeles Rams. Yeah, I got them winning against the Cardinals this week. I don't think they're a bad team. I still don't think they're a bad team. Yeah, I do think they're going to beat the Cardinals. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles versus the the New York Jets. The Eagles 5-0, one of the two remaining undefeated teams next to the San Francisco 49ers. They had a closer than expected victory against the LA Rams, but they still looked like a great team. And of course, I'm going to pick the Eagles winning over the Jets. The Jets did have a win over the Broncos. That defense really helped them win it in the end. But I'm still going to take the Eagles here. Next up on Sunday Night Football, the Giants versus the Bills. I'm taking the Bills. Nothing else needs to be said. We all know the Bills are going to win this. And finally is going to be my upset of the week. I'm going to take the Chargers over the Cowboys. It might be a stupid pick, but I'm going to take the Chargers over the Cowboys. I don't know. Something tells me that the Cowboys, they didn't perform well last week. Dak Prescott threw, I think, 3 interceptions, and I don't know. I think the Chargers, they're coming off of a bye week, so they're pretty well rested, and I think they're going to defeat the Cowboys at home. Well, that is going to be the end of my predictions. I know it's been a really short video, and I'm sorry that my voice is kind of quiet, but I do kind of record these late, so that's kind of why. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Yeah, hopefully I get a better record this week. Hopefully things get back on track. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.